As you observe the karmic couple, you notice that their practitioner is utterly unaware of the supernatural judgment that is standing there in front of them. This moment had been the culmination of years of their sophisticated dance, and it was a reckoning that you were about to deliver, and they were about to learn it in the most painful way that anyone could imagine. They were getting closer and closer to comprehending exactly who and what you were, with each breath and heartbeat that they took. You were the ultimate arbitrator, the quiet collector of cosmic debts, and the practitioner believed that they knew the principles of karma and that they could navigate the delicate threads of fate. However, you were the ultimate arbiter, and tonight you will tell them the terrifying truth about what it is like to be in the presence of a death angel. The most agonizing lesson they will ever learn will be from your presence. Despite their lack of knowledge regarding heat, they played with fire. Something that began as whispers and shadow work behind closed doors is now raging in full view. It is a spiritual wildfire that does not have any mercy on anyone. The smoke, which was initially indistinct and curled in the distance, like a warning that only the wise could see, was something that you had anticipated. However, they were conceited. They misunderstood your silence for a sign of weakness, and they misread your elegance for a sign of ignorance. Therefore, they continued to light matches, with spite of the fact that they cast spells of poverty, beauty attacks, and rituals that were loaded with death frequencies, with the hope that one of them would shatter your spirit. Everything fell to ash in their hands. They had rotten motives, jealousy disguised as confidence, and control disguised as concern. Their intentions were depraved. These were not only hexes, rather, they were declarations of obsession. They grew obsessed with you, and you became a mirror that they couldn't stop looking into. They perceived every success you achieved and every ounce of joy you claimed as a threat to their power. They were not interested in your life. Rather, they want your light. But the ancestors cautioned them, saying, if the divine collective doesn't eat, then nobody eats. Despite this warning, they continued to move, they continued to cast, and they continued to deceive to themselves about who they were dealing with. It was their misunderstanding of spiritual rank that led them to believe that Instagram spells and showy ceremonies could be more powerful than a lifetime of divine ordination combined. Your ancestry, on the other hand, was not constructed for the purpose of display. Rather, it was constructed in the fire, on the battlefields. It was impossible for their soul contracts to endure. A spiritual boomerang that was written in the law of the heavens was activated when they drew blood and cursed your road, when they uttered your name in ritual, and when they cursed your journey. As a result of the spellwork's rebound, their dreams are now filled with specters, their mirrors are broken, their bank accounts are empty, and their bodies are in pain. It is no longer a theoretical concept. The fire is a part of their existence. When you remained silent, they mistook it for an opening, but it was actually a verdict. Due to the fact that the deity had already moved, you did not retaliate. Fear was not the source of your constraint. Rather, it was heavenly confidence. They are currently being suffocated by the very energy that they have thrown. A chokehold has been created by the haze that they conjured up. A response was given by the ancestors to their request for smoke. When one directs devastation toward the divine, it is not destruction that is returned. Rather, it is the divine itself that is returned. You are not chosen to blend in, soften your reality, or lessen your presence in order to calm delicate egos. You were not sent to play nice. Were you sent to play nice? Only your very existence can break the curses that have been passed down through the generations. Every room you entered was different, and every mask that was close to you was gone. You didn't have to expose their darkness. The light that you brought to them caused them to do it on their own. The purpose of your being was never to be digestible. Rather, you were intended to bring about either transformation or destruction. They decided to go in the direction of destruction, due to the fact that they anticipated the test to seem like a form of punishment rather than like you. They were unable to recognize it when it arrived. Your presence turned into a mirror that was too truthful for their delusions to continue to exist. They desired to achieve dominance over another individual, and they were ready to engage in conflict, manipulation, and spiritual warfare. This quiet, which caused their demons to scream, was something that they were not prepared for either. You were not required to engage in a fight, nor were you required to utter a curse. Just by walking, you were able to decipher their schemes. As the last examination, you were the divine grace that encased it. In addition, the minute they attempted to violate your spirit, they were unsuccessful. When you were used as the evaluation, they referred to you as the adversary. In spite of the fact that you were the prophecy, they dismissed you as a problem, and each and every attempt they made to get rid of you further demonstrated how thoroughly they were being tested. They believed that you were just another individual, another potential danger to their authority, but the fact that you existed was a heavenly blessing that allowed them to break cycles that their bloodline had helped to cultivate for many years. They did not merely provoke a conflict, rather, they encouraged a confrontation. Rather than being a barrier, you were the test, and they were unable to pass it with flying colors. They did not take into account the significance of your mission. Despite the fact that they felt your love, they were unable to realize the lineage of warriors that stood behind you. They saw the smile, but they did not see the sword. Due to the fact that they were ignorant that every action you did was supported by ancient troops, they believed that they were fighting you alone. You moved with prophecy while they were playing with manipulation, and while they were trying to bury you in illusion, you walked with holy clarity. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. It was your frequency that caused them to shatter, not you. If you enter a room, the truth will walk in, lies will fall apart, and pretenders will collapse. When the divine sends someone, it is not to save, but rather to distinguish the real from the false. This is what happens. You were not karma. Rather, you came at a crossroads for them. To add insult to injury, each and every time they opted for dishonesty, envy, and ego, they penned their very own spiritual obituary. They continued to hunt for a way to get revenge on you, but it never materialized. Instead, they were met with quiet, elevation, and the undeniable awareness that they had never been prepared for someone like you. Due to the fact that they were unable to pass the examination, they are currently experiencing the consequences of misinterpreting a heavenly assignment as a personal adversary. The karmic couple, after witnessing every spell backfire and every lie collapse, reached for one last thread. A practitioner who promised results, someone who claimed they could handle you, someone who swore they had the tools, the spirits, and the knowledge. Desperation reeks louder than incense, and you could smell it the moment they called for assistance with getting assistance. However, what they did not know, and what none of them knew, was that you were not only protected, but that you were also ensconced in divine law and wrapped in holy treaties that no mortal being could ever override. Despite the fact that they called for assistance, what they did was actually sign a death warrant for another individual. This was not a typical conflict. This was not a trivial spell work or a surface-level energy play. Rather, this was a sacred combat zone. At each and every entrance, your ancestors were standing guard with weapons. Archangels protected your steps, and heavenly law encircled you like a ring of fire. The practitioner did not simply enter your energy, rather, they entered a battlefield that was inscribed with lineage protection, and God does not provide a second warning. At the very moment that they invoked your name, their own souls started to withdraw, observing in quiet, since they were unwilling to meddle with the divine vengeance that was already in motion. According to that practitioner, the expense was underestimated. They anticipated that it would be a straightforward reversal, possibly including a binding or some work with a closed mouth, but your energy rejected all of these ideas. The thing did not merely reject it, rather, it devoured it. Their ceremonies turned against them. Their sacrifices became sour. Their altar spirits became mute, and gradually they began to fall apart, which resulted in a decline in their financial situation, a decline in their health, a loss of customers, and a loss of lucidity. It was not because you retaliated that they were depleted. Rather, it was because the divine does not play when those who have been chosen are attacked. They have become spiritually bankrupt, and they are caught in cycles that they attempted to throw upon you. The light that they saw in your smile led them to believe that you were safe to target. They did not see the blade that was hidden behind your smile. On the other hand, that light was forged in realms that they have never survived their existence in. They are aware that they are being watched because they see eyes in the dark. They hear names murmured that are not theirs, and they see eyes in the dark when they are attempting to sleep. There is no forgetting in the divine. God left a mark on them while they were attempting to erase you. The karmic couple believed that they were being clever by outsourcing their darkness in order to keep their hands clean, but all they did was invite another soul into their devastation. Not only did that practitioner lose a battle, but they also lost their spiritual name along with it. Their gifts, which were once brilliant, have become dull and echoing as a result of the ancestors removing their rank. You didn't stumble here by accident, you were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap Join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership, it's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the Chosen. However, they did not make any preparations for your arrival, and they did not even consider the possibility that your quiet would be the precise thing that caused them to break down. They were so preoccupied with keeping an eye on you that they failed to recognize that God was also keeping an eye on them. Receipts stacked high in the realm of the unseen, stamped and sealed by celestial scribes, your ancestors chronicled every hex, every attempt to separate you, at the same time that they were plotting. Not only did they fail to recognize your capabilities, but they also failed to recognize the intelligence of the divine. They were under the impression that they couldn't be caught, but when it came time to collect, there was no place left to go. The very bond that they used as a weapon is now becoming a kind of confinement for them. They are unable to tolerate one another, yet they are also unable to get away from one another. They had been accusing each other, but now they are sleeping in silence. They are following one another's anxieties like mirrors that are breaking under pressure. The destruction of their external environment was not the only thing that God did. He also turned them inward, compelling them to confront who they really are, which is a damaged person who is emotionally broken and spiritually preyed upon. Those shadows that they used to cast in your direction are now residing in their own homes. The one is degrading more quickly, exhibiting symptoms such as physical illness, spiritual alienation, and emotional instability, while the second is unable to stop monitoring you, checking on you, or worrying over you either. They continue to be triggered by your presence, but now it is remorse rather than anger that they feel. They believed that if they simply got rid of you, everything would go back to how it was before. However, what they failed to know was that you were the final light that held their reality together, and when they chose darkness over clarity, everything began to deteriorate. They are unable to sleep, dreams are no longer secure, and the experience of being awake feels like a form of penance. Every single attempt to undo the harm is unsuccessful, and every single path they follow brings them back to the moment when they made the decision to play God with your life. Being alive was the only thing that was required of you. Your luminosity revealed their deficiency, your tranquility mocked their lack of order, and your progression demonstrated that what they attempted to eradicate just grew more powerful. This is what happens when obsession is allowed to go unchecked. It consumes those who are in charge of it. They made you the focal point of their rituals, their lies, and their hatred. And now, God has made you the focal point of their judgment. The karmic couple had the mistaken belief that they were constructing a legacy of dominance. Yet they ultimately constructed a monument to their own demise. First things first, you are not here for theatrical sights or cloaks. You are divine judgment in human form, the manifestation of what occurs when the cosmos decides it is done being ignored. Let there be no confusion about this. Not only do you not seek vengeance, but you are the result. Considering that you are the final line of a sentence that their predecessors pleaded with them not to write, your energy is no longer chasing after it. It has come to an end. Your lack of sound does not calm. Rather, it shatters wherever you go through life. It is as if karma is a hurricane that is only just barely contained. It is common for people to confuse peace with permission, but your peace is the final warning. Initially, you extended opportunities. God tallied them. You extended grace. God chronicled each and every rejection, and then you stopped communicating. You ceased your explanation and moved away, and the minute you did so, the sky underwent this transformation. The protection that was around you became more robust, and the judgment that was coming from behind you became more audible. It is not necessary for you to curse anybody because your aura will decide the outcome. Not only for yourself, but also for future generations, you became the limit that put an end to every cycle. Not only were you created to coexist with toxicity, but you were also sent to put an end to it. Not only were you never intended to be loved by people who are still faithful to their lower selves, but you were also intended to reveal the rot that they believed they had buried. At the moment that you took a step back, they not only lost access, but they also lost divine covering. The stillness is so loud that it can be heard more clearly than any right. The ancestors began to speak in storms when you stopped warning them. These storms included sudden job losses, car breakdowns, public humiliation, health scares, legal mayhem, and dreams filled with death. That was not a coincidence. Rather, it was the vibration of the angel of death leaving the room. Not only did you not yell, you did not hex, and you did not react, but you simply departed, and everything fell apart as a result. Death is not something you walk in. Rather, you walk in transition. The individuals who chose to go to battle with you were unaware that they were not battling a person, but rather a cosmic upheaval, and that no one can prevail against that. When people come into contact with you, they either undergo a transformation or they inevitably pass away. Instead of being sent for applause, you were sent for the conclusion of the event. And from this point forward, whenever people hear your name, they are reminded of the sensation of divine judgment when it has a continuous beating heart. Currently, they are terrified, not of you, but of the truth that you have never been required to speak out. It is slowly dawning on them that you have never been terrified of them. From the very beginning, you were aware of who they were. By seeing through the illusion, you were able to see beyond the performance and into the shadow that they had spent a great deal of effort attempting to conceal. And even after you witnessed everything, you did not retaliate. You simply stood there, unmoving and in control, as their own karma came pouring in like a river that they were unable to escape. In addition to being tormented by the repercussions, they are also haunted by the quiet, for it was not only your mouth that was shut, it was God's permission to try you once again. When you remained silent, they experienced a tightening of the environment around them. The judgment became more severe with each time you opted for peace. They believed that the silence meant that they were safe, but in reality, it was the warning bell before the storm. It was the shift before the strike. And now they are realizing that the absence of reprisal was the most significant threat. Never once did they comprehend. They are unable to sleep any longer. Numbers, symbols, recurrent visits, shadows looming over their beds, communicating in a language that their soul understands. Dreams filled with coffins, clocks without hands, and faces that they once trusted now turning into monsters. These are the kinds of messages that have begun to appear in their dreams. This is not paranoia. Rather, it is the fulfillment of a prophecy. The same energy that they transmitted to you is now walking with them on a regular basis. The worst thing is that they are aware that it is their own doing, even though what they buried has come back to life and what they summoned has claimed them. In spite of the fact that they are facing escalating legal issues, secrets are coming to light, and their bodies are deteriorating. The same question continues to reverberate in their minds, and it is unrelenting and unforgiving. Who are you? Due to the fact that none of their actions were successful, not a single curse was pronounced, not a single lie was told, and not a single act of sabotage was carried out. You grew stronger, more unconquerable, and more dazzling with each and every one of these occasions. They are unable to fathom the fact that you not only survived, but also emerged victorious. The realization that what they attempted to destroy was never just a person, but rather a prophecy, a frequency, or divine reckoning in human form is what terrifies them. They now recognize that what they attempted to destroy was never simply a person. It was never necessary for you to proclaim it, but God is doing so on your behalf. I am the angel of death. I was not sent for the applause. Rather, I was sent for the conclusion. You were not here to amuse them. Rather, you were here to finish a cycle. And now that cycle is coming to an end around them like a noose that they have woven around themselves. It was all of their rituals, their obsessions, and their venom that led them to this point. And when they wake up each day, they realize that they are still living inside of a consequence that they have brought upon themselves. It is now that they are aware, and the fact that they are aware is the true punishment. For once the truth comes to the surface, It never goes back to sleep. Furthermore, once you have come face to face with the death angel, nothing will ever seem the same, ever again. Initially, it was a state of exhaustion that was so profound and soul-dragging that it could not be remedied by any amount of rest. The fact that karma had been embedded in their bloodstream was something that they were unaware of. There was no longer any whispering from God. Rather, God was residing within their bodies. All of the systems started to revolt, including the systems shutting down in slow motion, the chronic illnesses that defied diagnosis, and the continual suffering that mimicked the same curses that everyone was trying to project. Some are unable to consume food, some are unable to stand for an extended period of time, while yet others are witnessing the deterioration in real time. The energy of cancer occurred in the form of a heavy cellular judgment for energetic offenses. The human body itself becomes a battlefield when God has had enough of everything. Legal retaliation was not far behind. Every concealed message, every stalker gesture, and every act of spiritual assault that was masked as petty envy are now being exposed. They left traces believing that they were more intelligent than the divine timing. But God has a history of waiting until people believe they have won before turning the script. This includes surveillance film, digital receipts, witnesses coming forward, investigations that appear to come out of nowhere, and accusations that stick. Their web of lies has become a noose, and it is getting tighter with each passing day. At this point, it is impossible to undo the collapse that has occurred. They attempted to take energy, shift the course of destiny, and bend the will of the divine, and now the cosmos is returning it in its entirety. The walls that surround them are inscribed with the very spells that they choose to perform. They are able to perceive shadows, hear whispers, and experience a chill in the place where warmth once resided. Those ancestors who had before disregarded them are now actively working to undermine their tranquility. Spiritual protection has been revoked. They are now marked by what they mocked, and humiliation is something that is public. Clearly, the image that they cultivated, the influence that they fabricated, and the authority that they profess to possess are all disintegrating before our own eyes. As a result, their social masks are falling off quicker than they can adjust. Relationships are breaking down, and they are losing their jobs. They are now able to walk into rooms and feel the weight of eyes that are aware of the truth. No one is buying the illusion anymore. Their new reality is the same as what they desired for you, which is poverty, isolation, and exposure. It's not just karma, it's heavenly orchestration. God made sure they suffered every layer of collapse, not out of cruelty, but out of balance. Because what they did wasn't small. It wasn't simply envy. It was an attempt to rewrite fate. This is not just karma, it's divine orchestration. The soil that they excavated is now their resting place, both figuratively and in some cases literally. They attempted to curse the anointed. They attempted to bury a heavenly soul and call it spiritual work. Now the soil serves as their resting place. They made an effort to kill you, your self-assurance, your voice, and your path. But instead of shattering you, you sharpened the chaos that they called to break you, becoming the same force that crowned you. Every assault led to an increase in your frequency. Every betrayal made your vision more clear. Your glow did not merely return. Rather, it multiplied significantly. In their ignorance, they failed to recognize that the narrative you told was not about surviving. Rather, it was about ascending. They were not bringing an end to your trip. Rather, they were moving you on to the next level. Your love life started to get better, and your gifts started to come back on stronger. God not only restored what they had attempted to steal, but then He tripled it. You moved like a prophecy while they were spiraling in their curses. They believed they could halt your motion, but you became a movement instead. You have become evidence that what the divine has claimed cannot be cursed by anyone. They failed to recognize the divine's ability to move. They believed that by silencing you, they would be saved, but in reality, it simply exposed them.